Hello from Jonathan and me, and welcome to the programme.
Yes, good evening on this poignant and moving day for our region. On the 11th hour of this, the 11th day of the 11th month, silence was observed across the region to mark Armistice Day and remember those who've fallen in the name of their country.
It was a day, too, to remember the passing of the generation who fought in the First World War. Later on in the programme, we'll have a report about Henry Allingham, stationed at Great Yarmouth during the First World War, who died in July, aged 113.
But first, perhaps the biggest single show of respect in our region was some 2,000 troops gathered on the main parade square at Colchester Barracks, watched by friends and families to mark Armistice Day. Well, our reporter Victoria Webb was at the ceremony and joins us now. Victoria.
Yes, well, it's been a very emotional day here today, as you can imagine. Relatives from all over the country made the journey to Colchester. Young children who lost a parent, mums, dads, husbands, wives, brothers and sisters gathered at 3 separate services throughout the day, each service having its own 2-minute silence. 25 soldiers based in Colchester have been killed in combat in Afghanistan and Iraq in recent years. And today, as troops stood in silence, many of them were well aware that this time next year they're likely to be marking Remembrance Day in Helmand. Their loved ones made the ultimate sacrifice. Today, the families of Colchester-based soldiers who lost their lives in Afghanistan and Iraq gathered in silent tribute.
It's nice to think that, you know, things are still happening and are still being remembered.
Obviously, it's a difficult period of reflection, we recognise that, but hopefully one also that provides a sense of uplift for them.
A number of small services took place across the garrison. The widow of Corporal Brian Budd, who was killed in Afghanistan and awarded the Victoria Cross, unveiled a plaque to commemorate the renaming of the gymnasium in his honour. Family members here today have described having a mix of emotions. It's obviously a very sad day for them, but they've also said it's quite uplifting. They've left messages here for their loved ones. One of them says, "Always in our hearts, airborne forever," and another, "You're always in our thoughts, never to be forgotten." On the 11th hour, around 2,000 soldiers from 16 Air Assault Brigade stood in silence on the parade square, remembering friends who lost their lives fighting beside them. Emotions still raw for those whose nearest and dearest never returned home. The haunting sound of an Apache helicopter breaking the silence. In Bedford, the town's new mayor, Dave Hodgson, joined the 2-minute silence in the town's market square. In Milton Keynes, the Centre MK asked shoppers to respect the silence.
And we invite you to pause to remember those who gave their lives to their country in the First and the Second World Wars and in more than 70 other conflicts since. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
And in Peterborough, people in the Cathedral Square paid their respects to the war dead. In Colchester, the family of Warrant Officer Dan Shirley, who was killed in Afghanistan last year, received the Elizabeth Cross. Among them, his son and daughter. It's a medal that recognises the sacrifices families as well as soldiers make. Despite their loss, his mum strongly believes our troops should not be pulled out of Afghanistan.
I think Dan would have died in vain if they pulled them out now. I think that, you know, they should carry on and see it through. That's how we feel, and I know Dan would have felt the same.
For Jem and Bob Wright, it was also a very moving day. After the various services, they unveiled a portrait of their son, Corporal Mark Wright, who died in Afghanistan in 2006.
It takes its toll, it's quite emotional, and no, you're going from one to the other, it's pretty hard.
Those involved in today's events at the garrison say they've been remembering extraordinary men and women. For the families, the support they've received will go some way to helping them cope with their loss.
Although some of these families had their own views on whether or not British troops should be pulled out of Afghanistan, today wasn't about politics. Today was about remembering these men and women, some of whom gave their lives saving their comrades.
Victoria, thank you. Well, staying with the military and back to the present conflict, the Ministry of Defence is today asking the general public to stop sending welfare parcels to the armed forces over in Afghanistan because their mail system is grinding to a halt under the strain.
It says letters and packages from friends and family are not getting through to the troops in the war zone because of the backlog. Instead, the MOD says if you don't know a specific soldier, then use a recognised charity to make a donation. Emma Baker has this report.
Laura Rose does everything she can to keep in touch with her best friend Sam. While she lives in Colchester, he's currently serving as a soldier in Afghanistan. Apart from the internet, one of his main ways of getting news from friends and family is good old-fashioned post. So Laura was dismayed when she recently saw this on his Facebook site. One Royal Anglian aren't getting their mail because they won't forward it on from Bastion. There's 150 bags of mail for us sat in Bastion, but they won't send it.
Sam's been in Afghanistan since the beginning of October. I sent a letter out within the first 5 days of him being there and he still hasn't got it. It makes him feel like he's not getting any mail, which is frustrating for us as well because we know we're sending it, but he's not receiving it, so he's feeling forgotten about because he's not getting any and doesn't realise that people have been sending them.
Unfortunately, Sam isn't alone. The MOD has admitted this is a big problem, which it puts down to the vast number of parcels being sent by the general public.
Those challenges have been exacerbated by the generosity of the British public, who've been sending large volumes of goodwill parcels. While we are extremely appreciative of the sentiment behind the parcels, and indeed it's lovely to receive such a parcel, clearly if it delays mail, then that's not something that we're keen to encourage.
For the men and women serving on the front line, post from their loved ones provides an important morale boost. 2 battalions of the Royal Anglian Regiment are currently serving in Afghanistan. For Alison Burgess from Bury St Edmunds, it's a difficult time. Both her sons have just left for a 6-month tour with the 1st Battalion, also known as the Vikings. She understands that people want to show their support, but says it's vital that letters and parcels from friends and family are given priority.
In a way, it's a wonderful problem because people really want to show their support to the troops. They really do. Whatever they think about what's going on out there, they want to support the troops. And that's what they're doing. And that's one practical way that they've found to do that. But unfortunately, it is causing difficulties. So we just need to tell people to support the troops in other ways.
A message echoed by the Ministry of Defence, which is now asking the general public to stop sending their parcels and support its recommended charities instead. All to allow those closest to the troops to get their messages through. Emma Baker, Anglia News, Bury St Edmunds.
Well, some really good advice there for anyone who does want to help our troops. And we were only able to bring you that story because Laura, who you actually saw in Emma's report there, got in touch with us to tell us about the problem.
Yes, we love to get your emails. And if you have a story you'd like us to tell, no matter how big or small, then we'd love to hear from you. Let's have a look at the address. There it is. It's on your screen. It's jonathanandbecky@itv.com. And you can see that, as I say, on the screen now. Please do get in touch with those stories. We love to have them. Now,